Andy Reid, the first thing he said was the kid needs a lot of work. But why you trade up to get him to wait on him? I don't believe in the system, the passing system that they have in the Big 12. Guys have not been successful with that transition to the NFL.
From the very beginning, Patrick Mahomes shocked everyone from the start. First, he shocked those calling the NFL draft in 2017 when a team that already had a solid yet consistent quarterback traded up for him. Then, he shocked the coaches and teammates of his own home team when he stepped foot onto a practice field. Then, in his very first game, he shocked opposing defenses, analysts, and fantasy football players. Today, he still shocks all of us as we wonder, how did Patrick Mahomes do that? What's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here, and today we're going to talk about what NFL players, head coaches, and analysts thought about this transcendent talent prior to the time that he got drafted. Before we get to the content, I just wanted to let you guys know that we're giving away a PlayStation 5 to a member of Mike Mafia that's subscribed and turned on our notifications. Whether you're an old subscriber or a new subscriber, if you subscribed and hit that notification bell at some point in your life and still have it turned on, then you have entered for a chance to win a PS5. If you want additional entries, then just follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! During the 2017 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs moved up, giving up their third-round pick and their first-round pick the year after to make sure that they were able to draft the quarterback that they wanted. This deal was made to ensure that their first-round draft position would be the 10th overall pick. Who was so important to them that such a significant move was needed? The Kansas City Chiefs had hard eyes over a literal gunslinger quarterback out of Texas Tech University, a quarterback that didn't have a winning season but put up monster numbers in college. However, no one knew if he could take those big numbers and replicate it in the NFL. The Chiefs' pick was more than an athlete, a young man who could have just as easily played professional baseball as opposed to football. He had a 96-mile-per-hour fastball and a father who had spent several seasons in Major League Baseball as a pitcher. Patrick Mahomes, however, was beyond blessed in handling the pigskin and reading the defense. Ranked third in passing yards, touchdown passes, and passing attempts to go along with pass completions, and also second in touchdowns responsible for, third in career yards of total offense, as well as career attempts in college. Those numbers are super impressive, but what did everyone really think and say about Patrick Mahomes before he became the Patrick Mahomes we see today? Before he took over as the #1 quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, before he became league MVP in his first full year under center, and before he became the richest quarterback in NFL history, and before he won a Super Bowl. On April 24th, 2012, 2 days before the NFL draft, via a conference call, Mel Kiper had this to say: "He can sling it. He has a heck of an arm. He's adept at throwing the deep ball. He can move around. He has very underrated mobility. He has no conscience about him. I always say you can't fear interceptions. You can't fear making mistakes. The only way to make big plays is by taking some chances downfield. The dinking and dunking makes you sick. The way he plays is invigorating." Mel Kiper is infamously blasted for being wrong most of the time, especially when it comes to breaking down quarterbacks and predicting their spot in the draft order.
I'm guessing one of the two is your #1. Who does Houston take? I'm going to go with Johnny Manziel.
With the 22nd pick, Johnny Manziel.
However, this time, Mel Kiper's description of Patrick Mahomes was probably the best out of all other quotes prior to the 2017 NFL Draft. On the contrary, the majority of other draft analysts didn't see Mahomes going as high as he went, and with more than one calling him a combination of a Jay Cutler with a Johnny Manziel. All of these expert predictors, except for Mel Kiper, were all in agreement that Mahomes' numbers were inflated because of Texas Tech's spread offense and the fact that he was a quarterback that operated solely out of the shotgun. He could be a boom or a bust, just like another quarterback that was drafted out of Texas not too long ago in Johnny Manziel. However, Patrick Mahomes was created differently. Not many saw it back then, but it is obvious today. He has a head on his shoulders and is able to make sound decisions. Even though Mahomes was not getting the best reviews prior to the most important day of his life, he kept his composure and, like the good student he is, gave all the right answers before the draft. But a secret that nobody knew was the fact that Patrick had nothing to worry about, as Chiefs general manager John Dorsey, assistant GM at the time Brett Veach, and head coach Andy Reid had a Cupid's arrow aimed only for Mahomes.
I think there's some talented athletes within this class. I think they have different skill sets, but are there some quarterbacks who have enough traits and skills to be developed down the road? Yeah, there sure is.
At the time, Mahomes was trying to improve his draft stock, so in those combine and pre-draft interviews, when Mahomes spoke directly to coaches and general managers and others who may be considered skeptics, he used his brains to deflect the negative attention. He was a Big 12 Scholar Athlete of the Year after all.
I just show my knowledge for the game. I mean, that's the only way I can prove it wrong. I mean, if you look back at the system quarterback, a lot of guys didn't work out. So for me, it's just going to be about proving those guys wrong. I mean, going out there, really showing my knowledge of the game and just competing. And I mean, we'll all show up when you get to the field.
During Patrick Mahomes' pro day at Texas Tech, there was only 2 general managers that showed up. One was John Lynch from the 49ers and one was the Seattle Seahawks. The Giants head coach and 3 quarterback coaches were the only other NFL front office representatives that showed for Mahomes' pro day at Texas Tech. Granted, it's nearly impossible to find a direct flight into Lubbock, Texas, where Texas Tech is located, and it is literally in the middle of nowhere, way out in West Texas. In fact, it's over a 5-hour drive just to get there from Dallas-Fort Worth. Perhaps other teams who were interested in him, like Kansas City, decided to watch the film as opposed to see him in person. However, it seemed like there weren't really that many NFL teams that were really interested in the future NFL MVP. In an NFL Network segment recapping Mahomes' pro day, it was mostly positive highlights and optimistic talk, but you could get the sense that, again, there were still many non-believers. At the end of the piece, the NFL analyst quoted in regarding Mahomes,
"What's the best case scenario?" Well, best case scenario is he plays behind a quality starter for a year or two, a veteran. New Orleans, Arizona, one of those situations. At the end of the day, I think he's a thrower, not a passer.
Which is funny because looking back at that comment, Patrick Mahomes in 43 NFL games so far has 13,227 passing yards and 107 touchdowns. There was not a lack of content or conversations around Patrick Mahomes prior to the 2017 NFL draft, but it seemed as though no one really predicted the star that Mahomes would turn out to be. In an NFL Network segment hosted by former college quarterback and former NFL head coach Steve Mariucci, he didn't seem all that impressed. In the segment that aired prior to the 2017 draft, although he was invited to participate, Patrick Mahomes was not in Mariucci's top 2 quarterbacks in the draft. He actually had Deshaun Kaiser and Mitchell Trubisky as the top 2 best available quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, Mariucci didn't even expect to see Mahomes to go in the first couple rounds of the NFL draft. His evaluation of Mahomes was casting him off into a group of quarterbacks that Mariucci thought should be looking to prove that they could play on Sunday. Mariucci implied quite suggestively that Mahomes wouldn't be at the top of the draft board at all.
Patrick Mahomes can sling it. Now, it's not pretty. He'll throw it sidearm. He'll throw it any which way. He hasn't set his feet yet. But this kid's exciting.
Nice kid.
I like him a lot.
Nice kid,
and
yeah.
He's an exciting guy. And somebody's going to, corral this guy and get him a little bit more compact and more predictable and teach fundamentals with him. But he's the guy that likes to improvise. He likes to get out of the pocket. He's fun to watch.
He lumped Mahomes in with Davis Webb from Cal and Brad Kaya from the University of Miami, referring to all 3 of them as middle-round quarterbacks. Webb, who actually transferred from Texas Tech after losing the starting spot to Mahomes, was drafted in the 3rd round, and Kaya was drafted in the 6th round. Both Webb and Kaya are no longer quarterbacks in the NFL. NFL Network's Lance Zierlein said of Mahomes before the draft, "Mahomes is a big, confident quarterback who brings a variety of physical tools to the party, but he's developed some bad habits and doesn't have a very repeatable process as a passer. Mahomes' ability to improvise and extend plays can lead to big plays for his offense, but he will have to prove that he can operate with better anticipation and be willing to take what the defense gives him in order to win from the pocket. Mahomes will be a work in progress, but he has a high ceiling, and he's a very low floor prospect." Once again, that comparison sounded more like Jay Cutler than the Mahomes we see today. Mahomes has clearly proven that he can win from inside the pocket and outside of the pocket as well. Prior to the draft, Mahomes was actually asked about his thoughts on Kansas City by a Chiefs reporter during the Combine, and again, he had all the right answers.
I am scheduled to meet with Kansas City, and I have actually met with Kansas City already. I mean, I know he's definitely a great quarterback coach. He's had great quarterback, Donovan McNabb, and just name one of the guys. I mean, Alex Smith's a great quarterback right now, and it's something that, I mean, it's awesome. It would be awesome to be under him and how he teaches quarterbacks, and I'm excited to meet with all these teams.
Little did he know that 85 days later, those Chiefs, who are so good at developing quarterbacks, would trade up for him. So why didn't any other team show more interest in Patrick Mahomes? Although most teams never want to admit their mistakes and probably wouldn't dare to speak to the media about missing out on Mahomes, one head coach did. Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach, told NFL.com just before the Super Bowl the reason why the 49ers didn't end up selecting Mahomes.
I didn't look into him obviously as much as I should have. I think it was, we definitely looked into him, studied all his tape, was just a freak, could make any throw, had the ability to do anything. I thought it was a little bit different situation for us. We had the second pick in the draft. Did not feel like, from all the intel you get and stuff, that he was going to go that high.
I wondered if that 2017 NFL draft ever entered Shanahan's mind when he was on the sidelines in Miami watching Patrick Mahomes' sorcery come alive, because the Kansas City Chiefs would run down the field for 3 touchdown drives in the final 6 minutes and 32 seconds of the Super Bowl against his 49ers. But in Kyle Shanahan's defense, Patrick Mahomes was considered to be a player that was reached on by the Kansas City Chiefs. He was supposed to be a late first-round draft pick, but the Chiefs couldn't risk losing him to another team, and they ended up making a very good decision in wheeling and dealing for Mahomes, although it was a very aggressive one. Brett Veach, a very young and inexperienced general manager prior to the 2017 NFL draft, had seen him in action at Texas Tech and continuously kept showing Andy Reid film while at the same time lamenting on his skills and his fit for their organization. It didn't take Reid much time at all to be sold on Mahomes after he put on a practice uniform.
I felt pretty confident that we had a player that was good. And then I had a chance to look at him and talk to him. And all you need is 5 minutes with a kid. You know what he's about.
Right.
He's solid. And then he comes on board and he does everything you ask him to do. He doesn't try to trump Alex Smith.
Right.
And that can be sticky, you know that how that goes.
Right.
Both of them handle each other, but the things that Alex taught him about being a pro.
Yep.
And then he put that into use. We had a chance, kind of a dress rehearsal when he played Denver, not knowing that.
17.
Not knowing that we were going to lose Alex the next year, but he steps in and does a heck of a job for us. And so we had a chance to see him, and he did the same things he did in practice. So those no-look things, little left, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We saw it in that game, and we saw it every day in practice, and I felt pretty comfortable with the move there.
Alex Smith took Mahomes under his wing for a year in Kansas City before he was traded to Washington so that Mahomes could become quarterback number 1. Smith, perhaps the most stand-up guy in the NFL, knew that Mahomes would be his replacement, but still did everything he could to help the young quarterback grow. Even Patrick Mahomes' father, Pat Mahomes, a former MLB player, laminated about the positive impact that Smith had on his heir. Peter King from NBC Sports shared a conversation with the elder Mahomes where Pat said, "My son can never repay Alex Smith for everything that he did for him." What did Alex Smith have to say about Patrick Mahomes? Well, first of all, he was far from surprised. Smith told ESPN early in the 2018 offseason when Mahomes was just beginning to heat up, "I'm happy for him, for them, for the offense. They're lighting the world on fire right now. They're fun to watch." Obviously a ton of friends on that team, including Pat, and to see them doing what they're doing is crazy. But when the reporter John Keim responded to Smith's quote with, "Not surprising," Smith answered, "Definitely not surprising. Physical tools aside, which he does have a unique tool set. It's more the processing. He processes things really well and processes things really fast. He sees things quick and he learns fast. He's not a guy you had to repeat things to. He knew, he saw the game well. I never felt that it was too fast for him, even last year." What about Patrick's other Chiefs teammates? What was their first impression of him? Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are basically best friends on and off of the field. The two connected right away, and Mahomes has helped Kelce become the top tight end in the NFL, and he is gaining ground on perhaps becoming the best of all time thanks to Mahomes prolonging his career. Kelce was drafted by the Chiefs in 2013 and was on the team well before Mahomes, and Kelce would predict his greatness early on and predict it to everyone who would hear, sharing the good news just after Mahomes joined the team. Ever since he got in that locker room, he was a star. You could even tell when he was behind Alex Smith all the year before. There's something about him. He has a special trait to just be himself and be confident in who he is and play this game with confidence and intelligence. This was Kelce on Pro Football Talk Live in October of 2017. Kelce said in that interview,
"What Mahomes does in practice is just unbelievable. I mean, what kind of behind the scenes stuff that you guys haven't seen on Sundays is Mahomes is getting better, getting more fluent, getting more comfortable just being a professional athlete, and kind of understanding the scheme and the timing, how long the seasons are and things like that. He's gauging all this stuff, and I think when he gets on the field eventually, knowing that he is going to get the keys to the car eventually. I mean, everyone knows that, and when he does, I can't wait to see just how good he is."
Even members of the Chiefs defense discovered early that Mahomes was really underrated. Justin Houston, a former Pro Bowl linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs, was duped very early on by Mahomes in practice.
He did one of those no-look jobs in practice early,
Yeah.
and Justin Houston went this way, and the ball went that way, and Justin looked over, and you could always tell with players.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Justin really, he went, "Listen, this guy's unbelievable."
Right.
I mean, that thing he just did right there, you just don't see, but...
However, there was another one of Patrick Mahomes' teammates, a speedster receiver, who Patrick has helped him quickly amass a ton of receiving yards, who wasn't all that impressed with Mahomes in his early days as an NFL quarterback. Tyreek Hill, who recently appeared on Showtime's Inside the NFL, explained that he wasn't an earlier believer.
What was your thought after you watched him that first week in training camp?
I thought it was trash. I ain't gonna cap. I ain't even gonna cap, man. When he first got there, I was like, "They who y'all drafted right here? They who y'all drafted? Hey, y'all." Hey, but look, he proved me into a whole complete, I don't know, like it's just that second year, like his quarterback mechanics were different. It was like he was spending more time with his quarterback coach, spending more time with Coach Reed, like learning the offense. It was like, dude, was like different.
Patrick Mahomes is now praised by his own teammates and even the competition weekly. But guys like Chad Henne, who thought they might even have a chance to compete for his starting quarterback position well before Mahomes proved himself, was complimentary of his arm. In the summer before Mahomes was officially named the Chiefs' #1 quarterback, veteran quarterback Chad Henne, formerly a starter for the Dolphins and Jaguars, who would ultimately end up as his backup, spoke highly of Patrick Mahomes to the Kansas City Star newspaper in training camp. Henne confidently compared Mahomes to Joe Flacco and Blake Bortles in terms of arm strength. Pat probably has one of the strongest arms I've ever been around. He can make every throw, that's for sure. Those big guys could really hose it in there, but for Pat's size, I haven't seen anything like it. And it wouldn't take long for Henne to figure out that Mahomes not only had a strong arm, but a very accurate and magical one as well.
And they have done it. Chiefs are Super Bowl champions here in Miami.
It's amazing. It really is. I mean, you dream about this stuff when you're a little kid, and I just try to go out there and be the best person I can be every single day, and I enjoy this every single day.
This was Patrick Mahomes, who has blown his own expectations and everyone else's expectations of him out of the water. Today, there is hardly a person on the planet with a sound argument that Patrick Mahomes isn't a legend already. Well, maybe Aaron Rodgers, who rolled his eyes on the Pat McAfee show and reminded everyone that
I'm so thankful Patrick Mahomes brought that into the NFL.
I know.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Good for him.
Yeah, I know. Since none of us have been doing it for a long time.
Like, because I think Brett did a lot of that too, right? Wasn't Brett a pretty big no-look pass guy? Like that was almost what he was known for. And at what point do you start doing that? You're just comfortable? Have you always done it?
I started doing it when I saw him doing it all the time.
However, that is how Rodgers rolls. The ultimate competitor. Whether Mahomes repeats as an MVP this year or Rodgers is given that honor, there's no arguing that Mahomes isn't right up there with all the other great quarterbacks. I mean, he has already practically secured his gold jacket, and from all predictions, there will be many more MVPs and wins ahead of him.